What happens when I say I want new feelings and point at his best friend as the test? How can a quiet husband answer a public wound without yelling or breaking the law? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm Odelia Nyx, 33, accounts receivable clerk, good at balancing other people's numbers and bad at balancing my own wants. My husband, Rowan Pike, 35, is a site engineer who loves plans, checklists, and quiet. He said calm builds a home. I said new feelings keep love alive. He asked for boundaries. I said boundaries are fear with a nice coat. He asked for soft nights. I said honesty needs air. I call that growth. He calls it noise. Caleb Shaw is his best friend from school. People say he is easy to like. I say he proves I still glow. Rowan asked why Caleb kept messaging late. I said adults can be friends. Rowan asked if I was bored. I said boredom is a choice and I do not choose it. He went quiet. I decided quiet is control, not care. Small things changed at home. 2 mugs dried on opposite counters like strangers. The guest bed looked too neat, corners tight. On the wall planner, a blue circle read, Downtown 925. I asked what that was. Rowan said a quick errand. I said boring. His laptop showed a spreadsheet with initials and dates, then slid into a blank screen. A cloud pop-up flashed, file uploaded successfully, and vanished. 3 folders sat in a line. Home, auto, bank. He called it organizing. I called it drama in slow motion. A thin binder labeled utilities felt thicker than bills. Inside, a sticky note said, bring forms in neat letters. His phone lit once with a thread titled Follow Up, then went dark. He moved to the guest room and let the door latch click. Levine, my brother, said a woman like me must own the room. Margot, his mother, sent a soft message about gentle voices for Eva, our daughter. I told myself I needed one brave test to wake our marriage, and I chose the person closest to him. I boiled water for tea and let the kettle hiss 1 second longer so he would come to the kitchen. He came, steady as always, and asked if I had time to breathe this week. I said breathing was for people who had already impressed the room. He asked if the room needed impressing tonight. I said the city liked a little heat on a weekday. He reached for mugs. I had already placed 2 clean ones on opposite counters. I said they dried better apart. He looked at the space between them and said nothing. I called his silence control in my head and then called it guilt because guilt made me feel tall. I opened the fridge and let the cold light spill like a stage lamp. I said out loud that honesty needs air or it turns sour. He asked if honesty meant jokes about private things. I said, grown-ups can test love with small shocks. He rinsed the kettle and set it back. His hands were sure. I do not like sure hands when I am building a scene. On the wall planner, a neat blue circle sat on Tuesday with the words, Downtown 925. I traced the circle with a fingernail and asked what that meant. He said a quick errand before work. I asked what kind. He said scheduling. I said phones remember everything. He said some things live better on paper. The phrase some things felt like a code he would not share. I pocketed it for later. Levin pinged my phone and said a woman like me must own the room. He sent a clip of a panel where a guest called marriage a living lab. I liked the phrase and wrote it down. Caleb sent a message under a single emoji asking if I was coming to couples' game night at the community center. I said maybe. He said he would bring energy. I said energy looked good on him. Rowan looked at the sink and asked if I needed help with Eva's school forms. I said I would handle it after I posted a draft caption. He said forms have dates. I said captions do too. When I walked past the study, his laptop glowed with a spreadsheet. Initials in one column, dates in another, everything clean. He pressed a key as I stepped in. The screen shifted to a blank field. A little cloud in the corner flashed file uploaded successfully and faded. 3 folders sat in a calm row on the desktop. Home, auto, bank. I said he was nesting like winter. He said he was organizing. I said organizing is drama in slow motion. He did not answer. He checked Eva's drawing on the wall and said we should frame it on Sunday. I said after this week's buzz. The guest bed in the spare room looked too neat, like a hotel waiting for a check-in. I pressed the quilt and watched it hold the shape of my hand. I told myself he made it for Eva to nap sometimes. Then I told myself he made it for distance. The second story felt more useful, so I kept it. A thin binder labeled Utilities sat on the shelf beside the printer. It felt heavier than bills. Inside the cover, a sticky note in tidy blue letters said, "Bring forms." I asked from the doorway which forms. He said service forms for the heater. I said the heater worked. He said winter comes fast. I said he liked turning appliances into morals. He smiled without showing teeth and adjusted his headphones on his neck like he was testing the weight of quiet. I stepped onto the balcony and took a selfie with the skyline behind me. I tried a caption about new feelings being good for old love. I saved it. Timing makes a sentence true or false. A neighbor on the next balcony looked up and then looked away. I decided her glance was admiration, not concern. I have learned to grade looks like papers. Mine always pass. Margot sent a gentle text to the family thread with a photo of Eva's stuffed fox tucked in. She wrote that routines help children and that gentle voices make strong homes. I typed that bold, "Mothers raise brave daughters." She replied with a single rose. The rose felt like a stamp, not a flower. I told Rowan I wanted to try something brave. He asked if brave meant loud. I said brave meant honest. He asked if honest meant inviting trouble with Caleb. I said adults can be friends, and a little flirt keeps a marriage awake. He said sleep also keeps a marriage alive. I said sleeping is for later. He looked at me like he was measuring a plank no one else could see. I refilled the blue tray by the door with mail and flipped the stack so the newest sat underneath. He watched me do it and asked why. I said new things want to be last sometimes. He said old things want to be finished first. I said stories want an audience. He said houses want a plan. I messaged Levin that game night might be my start. He replied that a mic is anywhere people listen. He said I should test the crowd with a clean cut and then soften. He added that Caleb performs on contact. I sent a laughing face and told myself the word performs meant harmless spark, not fire. The apartment absorbed our steps. Eva slept. The humidifier hummed like a distant plane. I stood in the doorway of the study and watched the printer light glow, although nothing moved. I said the printer smelled warm. He said he had not printed. I said maybe the neighbors were running a report. He said maybe. He placed a small unsealed envelope in the outbox, then slid the drawer shut. The lock clicked when he turned the key. I asked if he felt stuck. He said he felt steady. I said steady is a polite way to say dull. He said dull is a polite way to say safe. I said safe is a polite way to say bored. He said bored is a choice. I said I do not choose it. He nodded and thanked me for loading the dishwasher, even though he had done it. He thanks me even when I only touch a cup. Manners are his way of keeping his side of the street clean. I opened our gallery to find a throwback and paused on a cropped photo of a document corner on our dining table. I had no memory of taking it. The edge looked formal. I closed the app and opened camera instead. I filmed a short clip of the city and said to myself that new feelings make old love last. The sentence tasted good, like a candy with a sharp center. Rowan asked if we could put phones away after Eva woke for water. I said one shot would not break a back. He said peace breaks easy. I said peace returns for applause. He said applause leaves no heat. I said heat is life. He said houses burn. He moved toward the guest room, with the even step he uses when he has decided something. The hall light cut a pale strip along the floor. I watched him pause at the planner and touch the blue circle, downtown 925, with one finger. I asked if he wanted me to set a reminder. He said he had one. I said alarms are for people who forget. He said remembering is kindness. I said I remember what we need. He stood in the doorway and asked if we could try kindness tomorrow. I said kindness comes after courage. He asked if courage meant Caleb. I said courage meant not pretending we are asleep when we are awake. He held my eyes for a second that felt like a rule being written. Then he said goodnight in a voice even as a line on paper. He went down the hall. The guest room door closed. The latch clicked, soft and final, the way periods sound when they believe in themselves. In the dim kitchen, his muted phone lit once with a thread titled Follow Up and went dark. My own phone buzzed a tiny pulse a moment later. A calendar reminder I never made flashed, meeting, personal downtown, 14:05, and slid away before I could touch it, like a fish slipping free. I stared at the black glass and waited for it to return. It did not. The printer's warm smell drifted through the study, and the blue circle on the planner held its place like a clean coin. I told myself these were small, boring things. I told myself new feelings would save us if I delivered them right. Then I set my mug on the far counter, alone, and listened to the apartment settle around the click of that closed door. I arrived at the open plan office early and let my heels set a rhythm along the corridor. I liked the sound because it made me feel tall and in charge. Taryn from Payables glanced over the divider and asked if couples game night was still on at the community center. I said it was, and added that the room needed a little edge. She asked if Rowan liked edge. I said he liked safety, and I handled the rest. She rolled her chair back and smiled like she expected a show. I opened my inbox and cleared 3 overdue statements with quick notes and exact numbers. Speed calmed me, because speed looks like virtue. Even so, my mind kept circling last night's blue circle on the wall planner and the words downtown 925. I told myself he planned errands because he loved neat days. I told myself the printer smell at home was nothing. I told myself many things that would let me keep walking. At 10, Ms. Caro passed my desk with a paper cup and asked if I could give her 5 minutes after lunch for a quick word. She used a kind voice that still sounded like a rule. I said of course and lifted my chin. Taryn raised her eyebrows at me and pretended not to listen. A group chat pinged on my phone. Levin had cut a tiny teaser from old clips and wrote that my Living Lab line would land. I told him to save the strongest captions for tonight. He sent a string of fire icons that made me feel like I was already glowing. I finished reconciling a messy account and checked the company policy site by habit. A banner reminded us to keep brand tags off personal reels. I smiled at the timing and told myself rules belonged to people who could not read a room. I could read any room if it had light and a corner table. Around 11:30, 2 co-workers whispered at the copier about a coach who liked to flirt at game night. I heard the name Caleb drop like a coin. I did not turn. Posture is a kind of message. At my desk, I tapped a short text to Caleb and wrote that a quick coffee could help us talk timing. He replied that the co-working cafe at 4 would be perfect and that I always looked awake in afternoon light. I let the words sit on my screen long enough to feel them in my shoulders. Rowan sent a short message about Eva's reading log and asked if I had signed yet. I said I would after I drafted a caption. He wrote that logs beat captions. I wrote that both matter. He sent a thumbs up and nothing else. The empty space after the sticker annoyed me more than a whole paragraph ever could. At noon, I ate a quiet salad, while Taryn showed me a photo of the community center hall from last month. She said the corner, near the stage, made faces look honest. I said, honesty looks best on someone who prepares. She asked if I feared backlash. I said, backlash proves your name travels. She returned to her spreadsheets with a slow smile I chose to read as respect. At 1, Ms. Caro waved me into the small HR room. She thanked me for fast work and then slid a printed page across the table, showing a freeze frame of my face at a prior company fundraiser held in the same hall. Our logo sat in the corner of the background. She asked me to keep clear separation between personal posts and any visible company marks this week. She said a family audience follows our pages, and strangers connect dots fast. I said my life is tasteful and separate. She said perception becomes part of work even when we do not intend it. I said I would be mindful. The paper felt warm, as if the toner had just settled. The smell took me back to the hall outside our study. I stood and thanked her, in a tone that kept me above the line. Back at my desk, I processed 2 reimbursements at speed to remind the system and myself that I delivered. Then I drafted a carousel of calm images, soft lamp, stacked plates, a hand on a glass. I typed a line about brave love needing fresh air. I deleted it because it tasted like a threat, not a promise. My screen lit with a tiny calendar pop-up I had never made. Meeting, personal downtown, 11:40. It appeared for one breath and then slid away like a note pushed under a door. The empty space it left felt louder than any message. I told myself I had tapped wrong. I told myself software misfired. I told myself none of this mattered because tonight would carry all the meaning. At 3:40, I walked to the co-working cafe and chose the seat near the window because halos sell redemption even before anything breaks. Caleb arrived with that gym casual stride people learn when rooms reward them for being seen. He asked if I was sleeping. I said I kept clean hours. He said I looked awake in a good way. I said I had a small living lab line for game night and that I wanted energy on my side. He said the crowd liked dares. I said it was not a dare. It was adult science. He laughed and said I did not need a lab coat to be dangerous. My phone buzzed with a call from Rowan's warehouse line. It showed as private as always. I let it ring and told Caleb that trust meant we did not jump for every sound. He said trust was rare. His praise traced along my collarbone like warm light. I asked if Mira would mind him helping with the mic atmosphere. He said Mira liked clear lines and he liked good nights. I said I liked both. He said I should start the games with a question they could not dodge. I said I knew the one. On my way back, I watched people pass me with boxes and headphones and soft coffees, and I wondered why their faces looked lighter than mine when I had the better plan. The office air felt cooler, like someone had changed a setting. I answered vendor messages until the clock gave me permission to go. At home, the hallway smelled like lemon and warm plastic. In the study, the laptop woke as I stepped near. The desktop showed 3 folders in a careful row. Home, Auto, Bank. For a second, a clean tree opened. Archive A, Archive B. A cloud icon blinked File, uploaded successfully, and faded. As I reached for the mouse, the screen turned calm and blank. Rowan turned the desk drawer key, and the small click felt like a period. He asked if I needed the charger. I said I needed air that did not smell like toner. He said the window was easy to open. I said windows do not fix attitudes. He placed a small stack of mail in the blue tray by the door and flipped the pile so the newest sat under the oldest. He does that when he wants to slow time. I lifted my phone and tried a lighting test in the mirror. The caption box pulled at me like a magnet. I typed that new feelings keep love alive. I deleted it. I tried that brave couples do not hide from tests. I deleted that too. I told myself the line had to land in front of eyes, not on a screen alone. Margot texted a note about Eva's bedtime and asked if we wanted her to keep Eva Saturday morning so we could rest. I typed that we were fine and then typed thank you instead. She replied with a period that looked like a nod. Omar sent Rowan a short line. He wrote that he was around if needed. I saw the preview on Rowan's lock screen, and watched him flip the phone face down without comment. I checked the utilities binder again, even though nothing new would be inside. The sticky note still read, "Bring forms in his neat letters." Under the taxes tab, tape held a small USB, flat and plain. I told myself responsible men save manuals and slow wives. The printer light glowed without printing. I said the smell came from some other apartment. He said maybe. I set my dress across the bed and sent a mirror photo to Levine. He wrote that the first cut should be clean and fast. He said the crowd must gasp before they can think. I said I could do that. He said to soften after the hit. I said I would. He added a last note. He wrote that Caleb would play well if I gave him an opening. I told him I knew how to point. I asked Rowan if he would stand with me for one picture before the games. He said he would prefer to keep the night low. I said low nights make small marriages. He said small can be strong. I said strong loves sparks. He said strong loves rest. We stopped there because we always stop on opposite edges of the same word. I carried the 2 clean mugs back to the counter and set them far apart again, handles facing different ways. He glanced at them and then at me. I said they dried better that way. He thanked me as if I had fixed a leak. Sometimes his thanks feel like walls. The community center hall buzzed like a hive. Folding chairs lined the floor. A banner about couples trivia night drooped at one corner. I chose a table near the stage because corners make attention lean toward you. Levin waved from the back, with his phone already up. He sent a thumb and mouthed that the first line should slice. I felt tall. Rowan arrived in his quiet jacket and set his phone face down. He asked if we could keep the night simple. I said simple makes small marriages. He looked at the scoreboard and kept his voice even. Even voices make me want to sharpen mine. Caleb walked in with Mira at his side. He wore the easy grin that sells classes. Mira gave me a polite nod that felt like a gate locked from the inside. Caleb asked if the games had a spice round. I said, spice finds brave rooms. Rowan asked if we could sit far from the mic. I said the mic helps shy couples. He said shy is not a crime. I said shy kills stories. Levin took a test clip of the stage and sent me a text. He wrote that the crowd looked ready. The host warmed the room with soft questions. People laughed at small things. I waited for the gap where a bigger note could land. The lights hummed. The trivia sheet slid onto tables. The host asked who wanted to share a quick tip for keeping love fresh. Hands lifted around the room. I stood before mine could think. I said, love is a living lab. I said new feelings keep the old house alive. Heads turned. Cameras lifted. Caleb leaned back like he already liked where this was going. The host asked if I had an example. I felt the moment open like a door. I said, people should try a brave test once. I said a wife could sleep with her husband's best friend one time, for science, to see if her heart still knows how to feel. The words felt clean in my mouth. The room made a sound like a plate dropped on carpet, soft and hard at once. A gasp, then small laughs, then nervous claps. Levin filmed. 2 women near the aisle covered their mouths. A man near the snacks whistled, then stopped when Mira turned her head. Rowan did not jump. He placed his pencil down and said we would talk later. His tone stayed level. I said later is how cowards say no. He said later is how adults stay calm. The host tried a joke that fell flat. Caleb lifted his glass from the refreshment table and made a tiny circle in the air, teasing a toast. A chant started near the back because crowds love to be told what to do. Mira moved closer to him and said the room had enough noise. She said eyes were on us. He smiled at her, but kept the grin aimed my way. I added that experiments make teams stronger. I said this was love being brave. I pointed at Caleb as if pointing made it pure. Someone's flash popped near the stage. The host leaned toward Rowan and asked if he wanted the mic. Rowan said he did not fight in halls. The line slid across the floor and settled at my feet. Caleb asked if I wanted to dance it as a joke or name it as truth. I said, Jokes are coward masks. I said, truth helps marriages breathe. He lifted his palms and let the room keep its heat. Mira told him not to feed it. Her voice stayed low. She was the only one who looked at me like a person, and not a show. I told myself she feared my light. Levin sent a message that read, "Post now before the room cools." I opened my camera and caught my own bright face and the banner behind me. I typed a caption about new feelings saving old love. I did not post. Timing makes a knife and a bandage from the same sentence. The host pulled us into a trivia round to settle things. We wrote answers in quiet. I wrote fast and wrong on purpose because I wanted the room to keep noticing me. After the round, I slipped to the smoking patio. I do not smoke. I needed air that looked like a frame. The patio was narrow and cold. 2 teens with phones pretended to film the skyline, but pointed at me. I gave them a shoulder angle. Levin joined and said the clip already jumped group chats. He said the phrase, "best friend test," was trending in our circle. I said good. He said I should own it before it owns me. I said a crown fits, if you hold your head right. He laughed and kept filming. Mira stepped out and stood by the railing. She asked if I understood what I had done. She used a simple tone that did not insult me. I said I had done nothing wrong. I said I had named a need. She said needs did not have to be knives. She said Caleb was a person, not a tool for me to prod Rowan. I said adult men choose for themselves. She looked at me like I was a little lost, and then she went inside. Her quiet shook me more than booze ever do. I found Rowan near the side door with headphones on. He spoke low into his phone, like he was building a private box in the middle of a parade. I heard only pieces. He said boundaries, then yes, then archive B, then uploaded. He listened longer than he spoke. He ended the call when he saw me. He asked if I wanted to go home and talk. I said the night was not over. He said our part of it was. He kept his hands at his sides, and his breath even. The last game ended. The host thanked donors. People avoided my eyes or stared too long. Caleb stood by the coffee urn and let attention slide off him for once. Mira held his wrist in a way that looked like a line on paper. Levin whispered that I should pivot to a softer line now. Say it was only a stress test for a video. I said soft lines make bad TV. He said this was not TV. I said everything was TV if you got the light right. In the hallway to the parking garage, the sound changed from laughter to shoe echoes. Rowan walked ahead with a pace that did not ask me to match it, and did not leave me either. That is his way. Make a lane and stay in it. Caleb called after us that the night had been wild. I said the night had been honest. Mira said the night had been cruel. I pretended not to hear her. We reached the garage, air like cold coins. Our car faced the street. The line of it felt like the line of his voice earlier. He opened the passenger door. I did not get in. He closed it without a slam. He asked again if I wanted to go home or have space. I said I wanted him to defend me. He said defense was not what families need. He said respect was. I said respect is a word people use to keep women quiet. He said respect is what keeps children safe when adults forget themselves. A clip arrived on my phone. The video showed me pointing at Caleb with my chin high. It showed Rowan at the edge, still as a plumb line. Hearts burst up the side. A push alert from a gossip page called me brave in one sentence and cruel in the next. I liked the brave and scrolled past the cruel. I started to post my caption and stopped. I told myself I was just choosing perfect words. Perfect is a good word when you are avoiding. Rowan's phone lit with a call labeled private. He declined it with one thumb. He set both palms on the roof of the car and breathed. The breath was patient. Levin texted that we should get a closing shot by the elevator doors. I typed maybe. My screen flashed a small preview titled Statement and then cleared before I could tap it. The word left a thin line across my chest. Rowan asked if I wanted a ride or a later talk. I said I wanted him to show fight. He said he chose steps. He said we would talk at home. I said mornings erase promises. He said mornings make them real. He walked to the driver's side. I stood under the buzzing light and took one last photo of the hall sign to pretend control. We met Margot and Omar at a family restaurant with long tables and sticky menus that made elbows sound small when they lifted. Margot rose and kissed my cheek with careful pressure. She asked if we slept well. I said we celebrated honesty. She said routines help children. Rowan thanked her for the reservation and pulled out a chair for me. He kept his voice even. Even voices can make a room feel like a test. I set my phone near the sugar packets, like it was a flower. The server poured coffee and called us a brave family. I liked the word brave, even when it cost someone else. I began before anyone could frame me. I said last night proved we were not the kind of couple that hides. I said experiments keep love young. Margot folded her napkin into a neat bar and asked if kindness could lead this week. I said soft truth is the same as delay. Omar asked Rowan about a site delivery, and Rowan answered with numbers and calm. I told myself they were avoiding me because they feared my light. Eva tugged my sleeve. She asked if Daddy's face was sad because I made people laugh. I said Daddy was just quiet. She asked if Mummy wanted a new daddy for one night for feelings. A soft clink ran down the table as someone set a fork too hard. I smiled and said grown-ups teach with humor. I said teaching can sound sharp. Margot slid Eva's plate closer and said boundaries protect children. I said boundaries are fear in a nice coat. Rowan asked the server for extra napkins. He spoke gently. Gentle made me feel like I was shouting even when I was not. The plates arrived. Syrup shone on pancakes like a camera trick. I gave a small speech about being real in public so children do not learn shame. Ava asked if Daddy would leave if people clapped too loud again. Rowan said families choose steady steps. I said applause means love. Margot placed her hand on Eva's and said, love can be quiet. I told myself quiet love is lazy. I told myself I was the only one doing work. After brunch, we walked to the park. The swings squeaked like small doors. Two parents near the slide paused their talk when we passed. I lifted my chin and said we were stronger than ever. Rowan said records matter more than noise. I asked what records meant. He said nothing else. Eva asked if I would make another brave joke tonight. I said maybe later. She asked if later means never. The echo did not feel kind. Margot counted ducks with her, and I watched them count as if numbers could repair tone. We sat on a bench under a thin tree. My phone kept lighting with hearts under Levin's new cut of my clip. A stranger wrote that I was fearless. Another wrote that I was cruel. I liked the first and pretended the second was a bot. Omar stood a little away and spoke to Rowan in low tones. They both nodded. Their nods looked like a code I did not know. I hate not knowing codes. On our walk back, we stopped at the supermarket for bread and milk. The fluorescent light was too white and made faces look honest by accident. A neighbor from our building stood by the apples and watched us with a soft frown. She asked if we were okay. I said we were great. She said gentle voices help hard weeks. I said I was the gentle one. Rowan put pasta in the basket and asked if we needed anything else. I said we needed Grace. He nodded like Grace was on aisle 5. At the checkout, my phone pulsed once with a calendar reminder I never made. Downtown 1605. It flashed and vanished before I could touch it. The empty space left behind felt like a missing tile. The cashier asked if we wanted bags. I said yes, in a voice that sounded like I had been underwater. Rowan thanked the cashier by name. He always remembers names. I remember lights. We reached the apartment in late afternoon. The hallway smelled like lemon and warm plastic. 2 mugs waited on opposite counters again, handles facing away from each other, like strangers on a bus. I moved them together for 1 second and then apart again, because the photo would look honest that way. Eva set her sticker sheet on the table and asked if grown-ups say sorry when jokes hurt. I said we fix things better than sorry. Rowan said sorry is a start. I said captions help more. Margot's eyes touched mine and did not move. Some looks are doors you cannot open. I drifted toward the study. The printer light glowed without printing. On the shelf sat the thin binder labeled Utilities, thicker than last month. I opened it. Inside the cover, a sticky note read, "Bring forms in neat blue letters." Under the taxes folder, a small USB was taped flat, steady, as if it had always lived there. The smell of toner rose even though the tray was empty. I told myself a neighbor had printed and the air had wandered into our vents. Rowan stepped into the doorway with headphones around his neck. He asked if I needed the desk. I said I needed him to stop acting like a clerk in my life. He said he was organizing his own. I said organization is punishment dressed as order. He said order is kindness over time. Eva called from the sofa and asked if crowns fix fights. I said crowns make people remember who they are. Rowan said crowns are for plays. I said life is a play if you are brave. He said families are not theaters. I reached for the desk drawer. It locked with a small final click as my hand touched the handle. Rowan turned the key once and placed it on his ring. A new, unfamiliar key shone there, plain and tidy. I asked what it opened. He said storage. I asked storage for what? He said, not urgent. The printer hummed and slid a single blank page like a sigh. The page looked like a sign without words. I tried to frame a family photo by the window. Eva leaned into me with her sticker crown on, and the paper points bent a little. Margot stood behind the couch and straightened a blanket. I told them a Unity post would calm the chatter. Rowan said we did not owe strangers a show. I said silence feeds rumor. He said silence feeds peace. I said peace is what people say when they want me small. He said peace is what helps children sleep. Levin messaged that I should own the story now or lose it. He wrote that Caleb was getting tagged in comments. I typed that tags do not mean ownership. He sent a shrug. I asked if he could draft a better line for me. He wrote that nothing beats a clean apology. I put the phone face down because the word apology makes my teeth hurt. Margot gathered her bag and said she could take Eva for the evening so we could rest. I said we were fine, and then said thank you instead. Eva asked if Daddy would be here when she came back. Rowan said yes, at the time set. The words time set felt like a rule I had not seen posted. I asked what time that was. He said the usual. I said usual is a moving thing. He said not anymore. The apartment shifted when the door closed behind them. The shredder gave one faint hum and then stopped. The sound touched my spine like a finger. I walked back into the study and stared at the clean desktop. 3 folders sat calm in a row. Home, auto, bank. For a breath, the tree opened. Archive A, Archive B, and then it closed. A small cloud icon blinked file uploaded successfully and faded. I told myself he was scanning warranties. I told myself he liked lists the way I liked light. I told myself his order was theater and mine was truth. I stood in the kitchen and held a mug that was not mine. It felt heavier than it should. I set it down where I found it, far from the other one. My phone lit with a comment from a stranger asking if I understood consent. I typed a long answer in my head and then nothing on the screen. The answer in my head made me sound like a hero. The screen stayed blank. I walked to the balcony and watched the street. Cars slid by like thoughts I could not keep. A child down below laughed at a small dog. I told myself that laugh was proof that the world still liked brave stories. Then I told myself maybe it was only proof that dogs are funny. My stories get jealous of plain things. I took Eva to her dance class at the community center and planned a soft photo to post. The hall smelled like dust and rubber. Parents leaned on the wall and scrolled with sad thumbs. I asked Rowan to stand with us for one quick picture. He said we should focus on Eva's routine. I said a family photo shows support. He stepped aside toward the notice board, and slipped on his headphones like he was building a small quiet room. His lock screen flashed for a second before he turned it over. A thin alarm slid across. It read, "Paper drop, 08R55. He dismissed it with one thumb and watched our daughter stretch. After class, Eva wanted stickers. We stopped at the pharmacy. A neighbor from our building waited 2 spots ahead and gave me that pity smile people think looks kind. She asked if we were okay. I said we were great. She said gentle voices fix hard weeks. I said I was the gentle one. Rowan thanked the cashier by name and handed Eva the sticker pack. His even tone made me feel like I was shouting, even when I was not. Back home, I arranged cushions and tried for a warm couch shot. I asked Rowan to sit close so I could post a quiet carousel. He said he had to answer an email first. The laptop woke in the study. A small cloud popped in the corner, file uploaded successfully and faded. On the desktop, 3 folders sat in a neat row. Home, Auto, Bank. A clean tree labeled Archive A and Archive B flicked open and closed. The desk drawer clicked as he turned the key. The sound was small and still felt like a door. I followed him and said he was punishing me with order. He said order helps us breathe. I said order steals oxygen. He said anger steals it faster. I said the best friend test saved us from lies. He said it was humiliation. I said he was rewriting history. He said he was writing down steps. We stood like 2 people speaking to separate walls. Margot texted that she could take Eva for the afternoon. I typed that we were fine, and then erased the message and typed yes. Rowan tied Eva's shoes and thanked his mother with a short reply. Eva asked if crowns fix fights. I said crowns make people remember who they are. Rowan said crowns are for plays. I told myself he loved props more than people. When the door closed, the apartment shifted sound. The shredder in the study hummed once and stopped. I walked in and found the thin binder labeled Utilities on the shelf, thicker than last month. I opened it. Inside the cover, a sticky note read, "Bring forms in his tidy script." Under the taxes folder, a single USB was taped flat, steady. The printer woke and slid out a single blank page like a sigh. I said out loud that this was all theatre. No one answered me. I asked Rowan for a stairwell photo before Eva came back. He said no to pictures. I said I needed a public reset. He said we did not owe strangers a show. I said strangers will talk if we stay silent. He said strangers can talk to themselves. I said silence is cruel. He said silence is kind when tempers run hot. I said he could not freeze me out and expect love to live. He held my gaze and spoke like he was measuring wood. He said he would handle this properly. The word properly landed like a metal ruler on a desk. I asked what properly meant. He said steps, not scenes. He said no more surprises, no more sudden speeches, and no more turning family into content. I said I wanted details. He said I would see them when it was time. I said time is a trick. He said time is how we stop breaking things. He picked up his keys. A new, unfamiliar key shone on the ring. I asked what it opened. He said storage. I asked storage for what? He said not urgent. He put on his jacket and moved toward the door. I followed into the stairwell where the light was soft and the air cooler. I said he could not talk to me like a meeting agenda. He said we had a child and we would do the next part with care. I reached for his sleeve. He stepped back without heat and repeated the word properly. He walked down the stairs with measured steps that made no echo. I went to the parking garage because I wanted a picture of us getting into the car later, even if it was just me in a caption promising peace. His car faced the street in a clean line. A thin labeled bin already sat in the trunk. He adjusted it and closed the lid gently, like people do when they respect objects more than noise. Headphones settled on his neck for a hallway call. I heard only follow-up and a calm understood. I stood by the rail and opened my drafts. Levin messaged that I should own the story now or lose it. He wrote that Caleb was getting tagged in comments. I typed that tags do not mean truth. He sent a shrug, and then a single word: apology. I closed the chat because that word makes my jaw lock. Back upstairs, the apartment looked cleaner than I remembered. The blue tray by the door held an unsealed envelope. The desktop showed nothing, and then, for a breath, the clean tree opened, Archive A, Archive B, before closing like a hand. A cloud pop blinked, file uploaded successfully and faded. The printer light glowed, and then slept. I took a mirror photo and tried a caption about brave love and fresh air. I deleted it. I tried one about tests and trust. I deleted that too. I chose the bright coat because bright things look like hope in lobbies. The office tower smelled like watered plants. I stood near the directory and practiced a soft face for a lunch photo. Kellen waited by the windows, with his hands in his pockets. He nodded once when Rowan stepped from the elevator. Rowan looked rested in a way that was not sleep. He said now was a good time to be clear. I said, clarity likes coffee. He said clarity should not need coffee. A woman in a neat suit approached with a slim folder and a calm voice. She asked if I was Odelia Nyx. I said yes. She asked me to confirm my address. I did. She said she had documents for me. She handed me a packet and explained, in simple phrases, what it was. The packet contained a divorce petition, temporary financial and possession orders, and an initial custody schedule for Eva. It listed pickup points, times, and a note about keeping communication through proper channels. Her tone measured everything. She asked if I had questions about receiving it. I said I did not understand why here. She said public service keeps things clean. She nodded and stepped back. The lobby kept moving. A stroller rolled by. A guard spoke into a small radio. I told Rowan the best friend test was courage. He said it was humiliation. I said we could delete clips and start fresh. He said patterns, not captions, decide futures. I said he was scaring Eva with distance. He said boundaries protect children. He told me all contact would now follow the instructions in the packet. He thanked the woman. He thanked Kellen. He said he wished for peace and would act toward it. I held the packet like a gift with the wrong gift inside. The elevator bell chimed. Doors opened. He stepped in without hurry. The doors slid shut on his calm face, and the lobby swallowed the sound. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.